August 7th, 1931, a long time ago. I can't believe it myself. Uh, at lying in hospital on the south side of Chicago. And my sister was born 2.5 years later. Our parents were immigrants from Poland. They arrived after the First World War in the early 20s, I think it was. And they met here in Chicago at the JPI, which was the Jewish People's Institute on the West Side. They used to have dances there for the young Jewish singles. So it was a good place for them to meet. And so my parents met there, got married, moved to the South Side of Chicago, and they had a grocery and meat market store. I went to Hyde Park High School, graduated from there, went to the University of Illinois at Champaign, where I met my husband. And he was dating a girl that lived in the same house that I did, and I was dating his roommate in his fraternity. And we used to double date until they broke up, we broke up. And that summer, John, my husband, called me, we started dating, and we dated for 3 years and then got married. But I was only downstate for 2 years because it was time for my sister to go down, and my folks could not afford to have us both down there. So I came back and went to Roosevelt. It was a college then, it's now a university. And was a full-time student, elementary education. And I worked part-time at Marshall Field's, which was a fabulous store. I worked in women's lingerie. And so that's what I did. I graduated on June 14th and was married June 21st. My husband was still in law school when we got married. And I taught for 2 years until I got pregnant. And then we moved to Skokie. There were all kinds of communities opening up in Skokie, and Jewish people started moving in. So we moved there and lived there in that house for about 5 years. And I had 2 children there. And then we moved to another house in Skokie for another 20 years. My kids all went to schools in Skokie. Our first child, Marcy, was born mentally handicapped. And in those years, there wasn't very much knowledge about people with mental handicaps, with children, with well, of course, not with adults, but there just wasn't very much. And so you just did it on your own. And she was late in doing things, but she did great. She was really good. After my kids were grown, my younger 2 were in high school and college. My husband decided that he wanted to get away from Chicago for a month in the winter. So we did a wonderful timeshare in Hawaii on Maui. We were there like for 4 weeks, January, February, which was fun. It was wonderful. We had a good time, but we reached the point where we could no longer be in the sun and it got too crowded on Maui. So we sold that and we ended up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've always wanted to go there. We were looking for someplace where we could go year round, and we both fell in love with it. And it was truly my husband's nirvana. Uh, Don was a horseback rider. I used to ride too, but nothing like him. He was a really good rider. And he loved fishing. Uh, and we loved going hiking up in the mountains. It just was just a wonderful, wonderful place. And as our kids grew older and got married and had children, they used to come down with the girls. We have four granddaughters, four gorgeous girls, I might add. Uh, and they would come down, and it was just perfect, just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful life. And unfortunately, he got sick and died, and I had to sell it. We sold the place, and by this time we were living in Northbrook, and Bill and Norma Brown. There's just nothing more I can say about Norma. Anybody who knew Norma, just the most remarkable, wonderful. We were like sisters. She and I had been close, close, close friends for probably over 60 years. Not only were we friends, but we played bridge that time and we still remain friends. So that has something to say. After about a month or so after Don died, she said to me, "We're picking you up tonight for Shabbat service." And she said, "We're taking you to Temple Jeremiah." And I knew all about Jeremiah because they were one of the early members there. And they told us about it. At that time, we belonged to Temple Judea in Skokie. So I said, okay, I went, they picked me up. I remember this so well. And we came into the temple, and everybody was so pleasant. They introduced me to so many people there. And I remember Rabbi Cohn was very gracious, like he always is. The following Friday, Norma said, "Okay, we're going to services tonight." So I said, "Oh." I said, "Okay, okay." They picked me up and we went back for services. And what really impressed me was Rabbi Cohn greeting me by name. He had only met me that one short time. I mean, that was, and the other people that I met, so many of them remembered my name. It was incredible, and the welcoming. And that's how I started at Temple Jeremiah. The um, the services were beautiful. I have always wanted to do Torah study, and they had Torah study on Saturday morning, so it was perfect for me. I started Torah study. Then I started coming for tefillah, and then Torah study. Met the most wonderful, wonderful people in Torah study that I still, there's so many of them are still there. So many new ones have come in, and they have only added to. After my husband died, and I became very involved with Temple Jeremiah, which I truly, truly love. I feel Temple Jeremiah was there. It really saved my life. It really did. It was at a time when I needed help so desperately. And I just didn't know where to go, what to do. And I realized also that when my daughter Marcy died at the age of 40 of pneumonia, and when she died, I always said that left a hole in my heart. And when my husband died, that hole, it just shattered my heart, totally shattered. And I thought, well, I could very well stay and lock myself in the house, stay in bed, curl up like I'm in a little cocoon, or just get up and get going. I'm not helping anybody, and least of all myself, by not going forward, really. And I decided then and there, I had a wonderful life. But that was then. And this is today. And this is what I have to live for. I have to live for today and maybe tomorrow. I don't know how many tomorrows are left for me. But if I want to see those years, I have grandchildren that I want to remember me. And I don't want them remembering me as whining and complaining and everything. I want them to remember me as a really for go with it person. In fact, they all say to me, they're wonderful in that regard. They say, Grandma, you are so cool, whatever that means, which is great. And they are really my life. They are just so important. So I think we all have to make decisions how we want to live, what we want to do. I find being busy is the best thing of all. I love being involved at Temple Jeremiah. I'm on the inclusion committee. I was on the adult learning committee. Whatever I can do, I just feel that it's a mitzvah, truly.